You can't get them out of your mind. It's a profound and often bewildering human experience, one that seems to defy all logic and reason. It doesn't matter if it's been 3 days, 3 months, or even 3 years. It makes no difference if they were a past love who still occupies a vast echoing wing of your heart. A new acquaintance whose brief presence has somehow rewired your entire internal landscape, or even someone you only know from a distance, a figure admired from afar. Their face, their voice, the specific way they laugh, the unique energy they carry, all of it has become the default background music of your consciousness, a soundtrack playing on a loop that you never consciously chose. In every quiet moment, with every unexpected song on the radio, during the profound loneliness of the deepest hours of the night, your thoughts, like compass needles drawn to a powerful magnetic pole, just drift back to them. The fixation can feel so complete, so total, that it begins to feel less like a thought pattern and more like a fundamental state of being. And as this continues, a part of you, the deep, hopeful, spiritual part that believes in a world beyond the visible, has become thoroughly and utterly convinced that this has to be a sign. It feels cosmic. It feels monumental. The sheer weight of this mental occupation is so immense that it seems impossible for it to be a mere psychological quirk. So you begin a silent, often subconscious investigation. You start looking for patterns, for synchronicities, for any external validation that can make sense of the internal storm. You start seeing their name everywhere, on street signs, in book titles, spoken by strangers. You hear that song, the one you've now tethered to their memory, and it seems to play at the most uncanny moments. You glance at the clock and see the numbers you've mentally connected to them, their birthday, a significant date, over and over again. Your mind, like a detective building a case, gathers these scraps of coincidence piece by piece and weaves them into a grand, undeniable narrative. The conclusion becomes inescapable. This mental fixation isn't an accident, it's destiny. The universe, you start to believe with a growing fervent conviction, is screaming at you that you're meant to be together, that there's unfinished business, a story that needs its final climactic chapter. You feel it in your very bones, this sense of a grand romantic design, as if you are a protagonist in a story written by the stars themselves. You are no longer just a person with a crush, you are a key player in a divine drama. But what if you're decoding the message all wrong? What if the codebook you're using, gifted to you by romance novels and spiritual pop culture, is leading you to a profound misinterpretation? What if this intense, unshakable, all-consuming preoccupation isn't a sign from the universe about them at all? What if that person, the one who has taken up residence in every corner of your mind, is just a messenger for a much more urgent, much more personal, and ultimately much more profound message? A message not from the cosmos, but from the deepest, wisest part of your own being. A message from your own soul, trying desperately to tell you what you're missing inside yourself. What if this whole time you haven't been haunted by them, but by the part of yourself they have inadvertently awakened? What if the ghost in the machine is you? Before we go any deeper into this radical reframing, let's just pause and truly honor that feeling, because the feeling itself is undeniably real and it deserves our respect. That sense of cosmic importance of a faded, once-in-a-lifetime connection is one of the most powerful and intoxicating human experiences we can have. When someone occupies your mind this completely, it doesn't feel like a simple crush or a passing infatuation. It feels like your soul is trying to get your attention, like an alarm bell is ringing in the deepest chambers of your being, and in a way it is. The problem isn't the feeling, the problem is our immediate interpretation of it. Our first instinct, shaped by the stories we've been told our whole lives, is to try and understand this intensity through the narratives of pop culture, spirituality, and romantic mythology. We immediately jump to the big, epic concepts, soulmates, and twin flames. These stories are incredibly compelling because they tell us that we are fundamentally incomplete, one half of a whole, forever searching for our other part across lifetimes and dimensions. The idea of a twin flame in particular suggests the dramatic possibility that one soul was split into two separate bodies destined to seek each other out. The reunion is described as intense, often chaotic and disruptive, but ultimately transformative. When you can't stop thinking about someone, it's incredibly tempting and deeply comforting to believe they are your other half. And this relentless mental pull is just the magnetic force of your shared soul striving for reunion. The obsession suddenly feels justified, even noble. It's not obsession, it's destiny. It provides a beautiful spiritual container for what might otherwise feel like an unsettling fixation. Then you have the equally powerful narrative of karmic connections. This belief suggests that you and this person have unresolved business from past lives. Maybe you were lovers tragically separated. Maybe you were bitter enemies, and now there's an energetic debt to be paid or a crucial lesson to be learned together. The constant looping thoughts are then interpreted as the energetic echo of this ancient unfinished story, pushing you to finally get it right in this lifetime. These connections are framed not just as simple love stories, but as profound soul initiations where the other person shows up as a catalyst to shake you awake and help you fulfill a forgotten spiritual contract. And to top it all off, as if to confirm these epic theories, the universe itself seems to play along, providing what feel like clues from a higher power. You experience synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that feel like breadcrumbs left on the path just for you. You find yourself thinking of them out of the blue, and a moment later your phone lights up with their name. You wonder what they're up to, and you unexpectedly bump into them at the grocery store. You start seeing their birthday on license plates, on receipts, on the digital clock. Each synchronicity acts as a cosmic wink, a little nod from the universe that seems to say, yes, you're on the right track, keep going. This connection is special. It's the kind of validation your logical mind, which might otherwise be skeptical, just can't argue with. These interpretations are deeply comforting because they put the meaning and the responsibility outside of us. They place the significance squarely on the other person and the faded nature of your relationship with them. This narrative gives you a clear, albeit passive, path forward. You must reunite, you must resolve the karma, you must fulfill the contract. It transforms the agonizing pain of longing into a noble spiritual purpose. You're not just suffering from unrequited feelings. You're a heroic player in a grand spiritual drama. But this popular narrative often stops there, leaving us in a state of perpetual waiting, yearning for someone else to show up and finally complete our story. And it is right at this juncture, at this critical crossroads of belief, that we must be brave enough to ask a much deeper, more challenging question. What if the synchronicities, the intense, gut-wrenching longing, and the endless, exhausting mental loops aren't pointing you towards that person at all, but are instead pointing you directly inward? What if the universe isn't trying to orchestrate a romantic reunion, but is instead using this person as a powerful living symbol to bring you back to yourself? This is the pivot point, the paradigm shift that changes absolutely everything. The relentless thoughts you're having, the ones that feel so intrinsically tied to them, aren't really about them. They're about you. Your soul isn't whispering, "Go get them." They are your destiny. Your soul is screaming, look at what they represent. Look at what they have activated inside of you that has been dormant for far too long. This isn't a story about finding your other half. It's a story about becoming whole. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung, a pioneer of the human psyche, drew a detailed and profound map for this exact territory. He argued that when a person keeps showing up in your thoughts with such intensity, it's not a sign from the universe, but a message from your own unconscious mind trying desperately to get your attention. Jung taught that when we become intensely, almost magically fixated on someone, we are often engaging in a powerful psychological process he called projection. Imagine for a moment that you are a movie projector and the vast complex library of your own inner life is the film. That person you can't stop thinking about has become a blank screen perfectly positioned to catch the light from your projector. You are casting hidden, unowned parts of your own psyche, your own buried hopes, your secret dreams, your deepest fears, and most importantly, your vast untapped potential onto them. You're not actually in love with them, the real flawed, three-dimensional human being. You are falling in love with a lost and forgotten part of yourself that you now see reflected in them as if they possess it, and you do not. The staggering intensity of your feeling isn't a measure of your destined connection to that person. The intensity is a direct measure of how absolutely vital that projected quality is to your own wholeness and your soul's evolution. The person you can't stop thinking about is simply the messenger, the catalyst. They are the mirror showing you a precious piece of yourself that you have disowned, repressed, or failed to develop on your own. This is a radical and for many a difficult and unwelcome truth to accept because it shifts the entire focus of the experience. It gently but firmly takes the power and the magic away from the connection with them and puts it squarely back into your hands. The obsession is no longer a passive state of waiting and yearning for an external solution. It becomes an active, urgent invitation to embark on a journey of self-discovery. This fixation is not a curse you must endure. It is a calling from the deepest part of being. It is a calling to reclaim the parts of you that you've unknowingly given away and to finally understand that the person living rent-free in your mind is there because they are wearing the mask of your own most profound unmet need. As Jung himself so eloquently put it, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Your persistent thoughts, this haunting melody in your mind, are an invitation not to a fantasy, but to your own awakening. To truly grasp this concept, we need to look at the remarkable tools Carl Jung gave us for hearing the subtle and often symbolic messages of the soul. He showed us that the figures who haunt our minds and dreams are not random. They are living symbols, messengers from the deep, unconscious parts of ourselves. This isn't just about simple attraction or romantic compatibility. It's about the very architecture of your being calling out for integration and wholeness. Psychological projection is one of the primary ways our unconscious mind communicates with our conscious self. Whatever lives inside you that you have not yet made conscious, that you have not owned and integrated, will be experienced as if it's outside of you, located in the people and the world around you. Your unacknowledged anger will manifest as a world that seems full of angry, aggressive people. Your unacknowledged capacity for greatness will show up in the heroes and idols you worship from afar. And your unacknowledged dormant potential for joy, freedom, or confidence will appear as the person you can't stop thinking about. Think of your consciousness as a single, brightly lit room in a vast and sprawling mansion. This room contains everything you know and accept about yourself, your personality, your skills, your memories. But outside this small lit room is the rest of the mansion, enormous and dark. This is your unconscious. It contains everything you don't know about yourself, everything you've repressed, forgotten, or not yet discovered. Projection is what happens when a figure from that dark, unexplored part of the mansion walks up to a window and casts a shadow into your brightly lit room. You don't see the figure inside your own house. You only see the shadow moving across your neighbor's wall, and you become utterly fascinated by it. You think the magic, the mystery, the life is happening in their house, but the source of the projection is coming directly from your own. This is precisely why logical arguments from well-meaning friends and family fall completely flat. They can point out all the very real flaws and red flags in the person you fixated on, but it doesn't matter in the slightest because you're not seeing the real person. You're seeing the dazzling, captivating projection of your own hidden self. One of the most significant and powerful figures residing in that dark mansion of the unconscious is what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is the repository for everything you've repressed and denied about yourself because you learned at some point in your life that it was unacceptable. When you were a child and were told, "Don't be so loud," your natural, vibrant spontaneity may have gone into the shadow. When you were told to stop being so sensitive, your deep, profound empathy may have been packed away into the shadow. When you were shamed for being angry, selfish, or proud, those powerful, protective, and necessary life energies were relegated to the darkness. But here is the crucial part that is so often misunderstood. The shadow isn't just bad stuff. It also contains what therapists refer to as your golden shadow, the positive, brilliant, and vital parts of you that you repressed for fear of shining too brightly, of being too much, or of making others uncomfortable. your untapped creativity, your hidden courage, your suppressed leadership abilities, your wild and untamed spirit. All of this magnificent potential can get tossed into the shadow right along with the darker traits. Now, connect this directly to the person you can't stop thinking about. They are often a living, breathing embodiment of a powerful piece of your shadow, either light or dark. If you are a deeply reserved, quiet, and cautious person, and you find yourself obsessed with someone who is outrageously confident, charismatic, and bold, you're not just attracted to them. They are mirroring your own repressed confidence. Your soul isn't saying you need them. It's saying you need the confidence they represent. If you've spent your entire life being the responsible, good person, always following the rules, and you find yourself inexplicably drawn to a rebel, a rule breaker who lives life on their own terms, they are likely a projection of your own repressed freedom. They represent the part of you that is exhausted from conforming and longs to live a more authentic, less restricted life. The obsession can also work in the negative. Sometimes the people who irritate and frustrate us the most yet still manage to occupy our thoughts are also shadow projections. That person at work whose arrogance drives you absolutely crazy might be reflecting back to you a healthy self-esteem and self-worth that you yourself lack and have therefore judged as arrogant in others and in yourself. Jung famously said, "How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also if I'm to be whole." Your fixation on this person is your psyche's desperate and brilliant attempt to become whole. It is forcing you, compelling you to finally look at the parts of yourself you've left abandoned in the dark. Beyond the shadow, Jung identified another even deeper layer of the unconscious that drives these intense attractions, the anima and animus. In Jung's framework, the anima is the unconscious feminine archetype within a man's psyche, and the animus is the unconscious masculine archetype within a woman's psyche. Think of it as a composite inner soul image built from all of your personal experiences, cultural influences, and even ancestral memories of the opposite energy. When you experience that classic love at first sight phenomenon, or feel an inexplicable faded magnetic pull to someone you barely know, Jung would say you have likely just projected your anima or animus onto them. They have, by some feature of their personality, appearance, or energy, become the perfect hook for this powerful internal archetype to latch onto. You aren't seeing the actual flawed, complex human being in front of you. You are seeing the living embodiment of your own soul's inner counterpart. This is precisely why these connections feel so earth-shatteringly magical and profound. You feel like you've known them for lifetimes because, in a very real psychological sense, you have. You've known this inner figure your entire life. It has been waiting patiently in your unconscious. The person you're fixated on simply provided the right screen for the movie that was already waiting to be played. The feeling of completion you sense when you're with them or thinking about them isn't about them completing you. It's the exhilarating thrill of finally meeting a living, breathing symbol of your own unconscious other half. The ultimate goal of spiritual and psychological maturity, then, is not to possess this external person, but to consciously withdraw that projection and integrate those qualities within yourself. When you can't stop thinking about someone, it is often a powerful sign that this internal integration is urgently demanding your attention. That person is simply the sacred catalyst. So how can you begin to tell the difference between a healthy, grounded connection and an intense, all-consuming projection? There are some very clear signs to look for. First, your emotional reactions are completely over the top. You experience extreme dizzying highs of idealization when they give you a crumb of attention, or crushing world-ending lows of despair based on what they do or don't do. Their actions or lack thereof have way too much power over your emotional state. Second, they feel like a mirror. You constantly feel that they embody a quality you desperately want for yourself or a flaw you deeply fear in yourself. The interaction is less about them and more about what they show you about you. Third, you see them as perfect or close to it. You tend to overlook, justify, or even romanticize their flaws, their inconsistencies, or their bad behavior. You are in love with an idealized image, not a real person. This is classic anima or animus projection. And finally, it feels like a puzzle you need to solve. Beneath all the romantic longing and fantasy, there's a deep, unsettling, and persistent urge to understand something crucial about yourself. The obsession feels less like a simple desire for partnership and more like a profound call to your own personal growth. Recognizing that you're projecting is the first giant courageous step toward freedom. It's the moment you stop staring at the mirror and finally truly start looking at yourself. If this is starting to click for you, if a small light bulb is beginning to flicker on in the back of your mind, just take a moment to pause and honor that insight. This is a profound and often difficult shift in perspective. If you want to keep exploring the hidden language of your soul and learn how to become a more whole and integrated person, consider subscribing for more deep dives into this kind of personal growth.
Now that we've begun to decode the message, let's talk about the most important part. What do you do now? How do you actually begin to reclaim these lost and projected parts of yourself? Understanding the theory of projection is one thing. Applying it to your own life and heart is another thing entirely. The process of taking back your power and integrating these disowned parts of your psyche is often called shadow work, and it is arguably the most transformative and rewarding inner journey a person can take. It's not about using brute force to stop thinking about them. That's a battle you'll probably lose, as it only creates more resistance. Instead, you learn to use the powerful energy of the obsession itself as fuel for your own evolution.
The first step is to get radically uncomfortably honest with yourself. You have to consciously stop telling the romantic, faded story of us and start courageously writing the story of me. Take out a journal or simply a piece of paper and without any judgment or self-censorship, make a list. On one side, write down every single quality trait or characteristic that captivates you about this person. Is it their effortless creativity, their unapologetic freedom, their quiet confidence, their profound kindness, or their intellectual brilliance? Be as specific and detailed as you possibly can. On the other side of the paper, write down every quality that irritates, frustrates, or even repulses you about them, yet still keeps you energetically hooked. Is it their perceived arrogance, their frustrating emotional distance, their chaotic and unpredictable nature? Now look at that list. Take a deep breath. This is the moment of reframing, the pivot point. Read the entire list back to yourself with one profound and life-altering shift in perspective. This is not a description of them. This is a map of your own unintegrated self. The qualities you admire and idealize are your golden shadow, your brilliant disowned potential waiting to be claimed. The qualities that irritate and trigger you are your dark shadow, the parts of yourself you're afraid to face, but which hold immense power. This list is no longer a testament to their perfection or your incompatibility. It is a treasure map leading you back to your own wholeness. Once you have the map, you need to bravely venture into the territory it depicts. This is done by actively and consciously engaging with these lost parts of yourself. One of the most effective methods is through conscious journaling. Use the list you created to go deeper. Ask yourself some powerful, probing questions and write down whatever comes up without filtering or censoring your thoughts. You might ask, looking at the qualities I admire in them, which one does my soul most want me to embody in my own life right now? Or what am I secretly afraid would happen if I fully express this quality, like their confidence or their freedom in my own life? Probe your past by asking where and when in my past did I learn that it was unsafe or unacceptable for me to express this quality. And for the darker traits, ask, looking at the qualities that irritate me in them, where might I secretly act this way in my own life, perhaps in more subtle ways? Another powerful Jungian technique is called active imagination. This is not mere daydreaming. It is a conscious dialogue with your unconscious. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and allow the image of the person to arise in your mind. But instead of playing the usual painful loops of longing or rejection, you're going to do something radically different. You are going to speak to the image as if it is a part of you, a messenger from your own soul. Ask the image directly, why are you here? What is your message for me? Ask it, what part of me do you represent? Then most importantly, you must learn to just listen. The answers might not come in clear words, but in feelings, in sudden memories, or in other symbolic images. Remember, this is not a conversation with the actual person. It is a sacred dialogue with your own soul. Integration, however, cannot remain purely a mental exercise. To be real, it must be brought into your body and your life through concrete action. You must begin to consciously embody the very qualities you have been projecting. This is the secret to starving the obsession, because you are no longer desperately looking for that energy outside of yourself. You are learning to generate it from within. If you projected freedom onto a free-spirited traveler, your work is to become the source of your own freedom. Start small. Take a different, more scenic route home from work. Sign up for that pottery class or language course you've been curious about for years. Book a small solo weekend trip to a nearby town. Each tiny adventure builds the muscle of freedom within you, making you less dependent on their image for that feeling. If you projected confidence onto a powerful leader or a charismatic public figure, your work is to cultivate your own authentic self-assurance. Volunteer to lead a small project at work. State your opinion clearly and calmly in a meeting, even if your voice shakes. Wear an outfit that makes you feel powerful. Each time you act with even a sliver of the confidence you admired in them, you are reclaiming that energy as your own. If you projected creativity onto an artist, a writer, or a musician, you do not need them to be your muse. You need to become your own. Buy some cheap paints and just play with color on a canvas. Write one page of a story without worrying if it's good. The goal is not to become a professional artist overnight. It's to build a tangible living relationship with your own creative spirit. If you projected kindness onto a gentle, nurturing soul, this often happens when we are deeply and habitually critical of ourselves. The obsession reflects your own desperate inner need for self-compassion. Your work is to turn that beautiful, nurturing energy inward. The next time you make a mistake, speak to yourself with the same gentle kindness you imagine they would offer.